Hello, my name's Louisa Moss and we're in studio today with Paul Quin and Keeley Moss, and this is a bit of an impromptu session. So I've just been chatting to Paul, and Keeley happened to be in the area, and Paul and Quin,
I have launched myself at them like a frenzied seagull. No, it's very kind of them to accept this interloper who has just swiftly swam in.
Quite a beautiful interloper, if you don't mind me saying so.
Yes, beautiful people here. And it's just great because it's the first time you two have actually met, and you're playing together on Saturday.
Yeah.
You've been in touch for a long time, and
as Paul said, I think it's when you sense sometimes people who will be receptive and responsive, and with whom you'll have a rapport. And I think human beings instinctively have a very strong spiritual sense of who's going to have that, connection with them. You don't even have to meet someone to just have that, you just have to know a little bit about them, or just even seeing their face or seeing what they're about. And I think, we kind of clicked in a virtual sense early on. We're clicking personally right now.
That's the world we live in today, is that a lot of the time we don't actually meet people. We get to know each other digitally, or whatever you want to call it. And then you hope when you do finally meet in the flesh that it's what you think it's going to be. And certainly with Keeley, sometimes you just know with people, we're going to connect. And it doesn't matter when it happens, it will happen eventually. And here we are.
Well, I feel really privileged to have witnessed your first meeting, and it was pretty emotional.
There were no tongues involved.
Not yet. Not yet. The night is young.
So you're actually going to play together. So Paul has his album launch on Saturday.
Yeah. In the Peppercanister Church. Yeah. And one of the first people I thought about was, I wonder, would Keeley come on stage? I know how busy this woman is, and working and all these recordings and songwriting. I said she probably won't be available, but I'll ask her anyway. And she immediately said yes. And I said, will we do a Smith song? Because the whole theme of the night is outsiderhood and people being on the outside looking in. So you can take your pick with Smith songs, but we fixed on one which I won't say what it is yet. We haven't rehearsed it yet. But I have a dream of me and Keeley singing together in harmony on this song. And if we can pull that off, we'll give it a go.
Absolutely, yeah. It's. I think the song that Paul proposed for us to sing and play together is one that really is, I think, in terms of the outsider anthems that the Smiths kind of uniquely specialised in. I think it's one of the most affecting and kind of emotive ones of all. There's something really oddly comforting about its kind of paean to loneliness and singularity in a big city sort of sense.
Yeah. And the whole idea, I think one of the lyrics in the song refers to somebody who were poor and now they've become rich through music. I'm probably giving the game away on this song. and I like, anyway, I think what the lyric is trying to say is that you don't need money to be a lovable human being, and maybe musicians think that the reward, is money in some way, and it's not. So that song covers a lot of ground. It's not just the loneliness, but it's about how other people perceive you and all that kind of stuff. There's just so much in the lyric of that song, and that melody as well. And that a genius, we all know Morrissey's a genius, but this song, I think, crystallises that genius in many, many ways.
Absolutely. And like so many of their greatest songs, it was kind of near discarded as a mere B-side. I think it was on the 12-inch of Shoplifters of the World Unite. Yeah. And
it's on the World Won't Listen album, which was all the throwaway offcuts or whatever.
Yeah, that's right. B-sides and non-album singles and so on. But fortunately, it's we're going to be resurrecting it, and because the Smiths never played it live. That was the other thing, because they not.
Oh, yeah. Well, then we've got no bar. The bar is set wherever we want it to be.
That's it.
Well, it's going to be set very high then.
We hope.
We hope.
So you're playing guitar on it, and
I'm going to play guitar. Well, I we'll see how it works, but I think predominantly I'll play guitar. I might do a little bit of duetting, but it's I think the main thing is finding the right key, for Paul to be comfortable, because I think that's the thing when you're a singer, you can inhabit the song, but Morrissey actually has a very low voice. I realised that I had to actually, when I was trying to sing, I had to set it I had to bring it up to the I had to bring it 8 keys higher than the way Morrissey was actually singing it. So I don't think we'll be doing that now. So yeah, no, it should be good, and I think it's something very graceful and very simple about it as a song.
Yeah.
It has so much. It's not in any. It doesn't sound stark or barren, and yet there's something very pure about it musically. It's hard to imagine a 5-piece band tackling a song and it's sounding. It's not in any way heavy-handed. You know, they've a beautiful economy of effort. I find the Smiths. You know, they never overcooked or undercooked anything. It just seemed to be just right.
Understatement. He understates so often. He gets in, he gets out, and he leaves you to think about and ruminate on what you just heard, as opposed to bashing it out and out and out and out. And I love long guitar solos, but you don't get those from the Smiths. Well, certainly not on this song. It's so thought-provoking, and it's so short and sweet in a way, and I kind of love that. I'm always terrified of boring people by going on and on and on, so I try to keep it short and sweet as much as I can, you know.
It's really exciting. It's going to be in Peppercanister. What a great location.
It's a fantastic venue. I saw Griff Rees do a couple of incredible shows there, really imaginative. And of course, the last time I was on your show, Louisa, and I chose my Keeley's Desert Island discs. One of them was the Super Free Animal song, so that was another Griff Rees, and a doffing of the cap to the Welsh wonder himself.
Me and Keeley will be getting musically married on stage in that church, even though it's a deconsecrated church.
Melodic matrimony.
And we haven't even rehearsed yet, but anyway. Yeah.
That's going to be a lot of fun. So can people just get tickets on the door? Or do you have to buy
the tickets
them?
are from ticketstop.ie, and I think they're selling quite well. I'm not keeping too much of a track of it, but certainly tickets on the door, or tap your card, or whatever you want to do on the night. There'll be plenty of space on those pews for everybody.
Okay.
I'm sure.
And do you have other guests as well?
Yeah, we have a band called Frozen Stairs from Waterford opening. They remind me a little bit of the Cocteau Twins. They're developing and emerging, but they're two wonderful musicians, Louise and Colm. And I also write songs with Colm for another project, so he's a multi-instrumentalist. He's going to be playing bass with me on the night on a sexy song that we're doing. And then we've got Flo McSweeney, who's also duetting with me, and Keeley here. So I couldn't have asked for a nicer bunch of people to be up there with me. All of these people I love musically and as people, so it's going to be a big love fest.
Yeah, it's one thing I think I've noticed is like support for people, you know, in the music industry here among musicians. Sure.
It's really important because I mean it can be quite an arduous path. Simply because doing original music in a time and in a climate when I think that the familiar has never been more favoritized and prioritized, and when you're trying to do something that is by its very nature unfamiliar because it's new and it's original, it can be more difficult to find an outlet for it. So I think for like-minded sonic satellites to come together and hopefully have an artistic alliance, I think it's really important because all we have is each other. It really is the case. Having those sort of bonds to form, especially in a world that is increasingly fragmented and fractured and fractious, I think is really important.
And I think another thing about that is that I started making music at the end of the 1980s, and it was made very clear to me that you don't fit in. Somebody wrote in a review that Paul Quin's about as welcome as a gypsy in a palace or something like that. I don't know, but and said, this kind of music just isn't really welcome here at the moment. We don't need to hear it again. So that left me with a terrible taste in my mouth about non-support from other musicians, and the fact that there was so much rivalry between bands, and if somebody had one sound, everybody then wanted to outdo that. And I listen to Keeley now, and I think we should all be here to support one another and to find the overlap, the parts where we overlap, and how we can help one another. I know that sounds corny, but rather than trying to outdo one another and trying to be sonically better or whatever, a little bit of support goes a long way, and we can all learn and grow that way. And what Keeley says, the fragmentation, we're less, the music scene in Dublin was very fragmented at that time. Everything had to fit into a category, and now we're at a point where you don't have to have any type of categorical thing. You just go out there and you do your thing, and you do it with passion and soul, and others will support you. So we've gotten past that point now of musical snobbery, I hope, because the 80s and 90s in Dublin was a little bit like that. If you weren't playing rock, forget about it. So.
I think it can be a hard business, and I think just even getting people to listen, you can be making brilliant music, but just getting people to listen and getting radio play can be hard. So if you can collaborate with someone just from a purely practical point of view, you're increasing your listenership, so it's really good to be able to do that. So I think it's fantastic.
Exactly, we're all in this together. It's really exciting. We're all in this creative process together, and trying to get ourselves some radio coverage. Everybody's fighting to be heard, and let's support one another rather than detract or be nasty. Keep it kind. I think is so important.
And is radio play still really important, do you think, in this world of TikTok and Instagram?
Well, the thing is, I think it's never been more important for two reasons. One, we're just coming out of a pandemic in which people were subjected to being separated and being kept apart, necessarily for kind of health reasons and so on. But we had lockdowns where the basic fabric of humanity was kind of really torn asunder, or at least kind of put under kind of great strain for a couple of years, which would have been unfathomable, unthinkable before that. And I think during that time, I personally found radio an enormous comfort. I live on my own. I don't have any pets. And I spent the majority of lockdown literally locked indoors. I was so determined not to catch COVID, and I've never got it, touch wood. So I found radio a real lifeline there. And also, I don't have a TV, and it's one of the reasons I don't is because I listen to so much radio, and I love hearing the human voice drifting into my ear, and the warmth of it, and having to kind of conjure up images to accompany that voice, instead of being kind of spoon-fed images and a lot of advertisements when watching TV. I know there's ads on radio as well, but it doesn't seem to be as much of a bombastic thrust to it. So I think radio, and I think especially for indie artists, because that is the thing, there's fortunately many outlets in terms of indie radio, lots of mainstream shows or mainstream stations that do have a flagship indie show. You've got Tom Dunn, you've got Fiona Brannon, you've got many, yourself, you've got many I think people that are receptive to that more kind of outsider perspective. And the show Outsiders, and there's so many fortunately I think there are those outlets that we can avail of.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really important. And like you, in lockdown, I listened to loads and loads of radio, which is partly why I'm here today.
They said video killed the radio star, but they were wrong. Video did not kill the radio star. The radio star is back from the dead, and we need the radio. Exactly what you said. It's not too auto-suggestive. You can just sit and listen. It's not flashing lights in your eyes. It's a moment of introspection when you're listening to radio, and I think we could all benefit from it. I probably don't listen to radio enough, but I know it's always there, and radio is very, very powerful, and always will be, those sound waves.
Yeah, I saw Keeley play in Panty Bar on Tuesday night, which was absolutely fantastic. It was great to see you.
I really enjoyed it. It was a very, very, it was my first solo show, because I usually play with my band. Shout out to Marty, Tim and Martin. And yes, it was a lovely opportunity to get to play for the Dublin Pride Arts Fest, an event called Happy Out, and it was just a lovely occasion, and really lovely crowd. You were obviously among the throng, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. But it's very, very rare for me to play solo.
You were fantastic at the whole thing.
Thank you.
The whole event was great, and it was organised by Heather McLeod.
Yeah, Heather's lovely, and she's really. I actually met her through the station.
Okay.
Yeah.
She used to interview indie bands here.
That's right. Yeah. She used to interview indie bands, and she was just again someone who's very, very just has that kind of soulful spirit that and that's the other thing about radio. I find the people who work at radio are all massive music fans. None of them are in any way jaded or
Yeah.
or lacking zest or lacking enthusiasm for music, and especially for new music. And I think as we've seen over the years, there are fewer and fewer opportunities for bands, for indie artists, for independent music generally on TV. Fortunately, radio has expanded to create more opportunities for the artists that are kind of denied a platform with the dearth of music shows on TV.
Yeah, well, I think that's why it's really important to have community radio like Dublin City FM, because it has given another channel for indie artists that definitely weren't there in the sort of the 80s.
Because on mainstream radio, plugging for large record labels and so forth, that's fine, but we need that space for emerging artists, self-releasing artists, artists on small labels and so forth. It's just essential. You take that away and you take the lifeblood away. How do we reach our audience? And we discovered that during COVID, no gigs and all of that. So COVID was the big leveller. That's when we all really had to, check our privilege and realise, this is how much we actually need one another, and we need that radio support and all of that stuff.
Yeah. I agree. And that's kind of why I like doing that off the record show with Dublin City FM, because I think you've said COVID is level. I think music is a leveller, because we all have songs that mean something to us, or that have like points in our journey,
Yeah. And it's only when you talk about them. I noticed when I was talking to you about those songs that I remembered. Those memories really came back to me again, that you associate with those songs. And it's kind of like reliving them in a way, those memories. When you talk to somebody else about it, it's like having a bit of therapy, actually, isn't it? It is, I
was going to go back to the Pride event. Is there anything else on for June that you're aware of? I know there's obviously the march, but I think did I see Heather had organised some other events as well?
I haven't heard anything. I'm going off on holidays, so I'm going to Turkey for even more plastic surgery.
Paul is the modern day Judith Chalmers. He's clocking up those air miles. I've never seen anyone take so many holidays. I would love to be Paul's suitcase. I'd see the world.
I'm wearing a tan jacket, but I have to say I'm not as tan as Judith Chalmers. There's no way. The love affair is over already.
Okay, so I think it's just been brilliant to have this impromptu session.
Thank
and it's
you.
been
Thanks,
really lovely
Louisa.
to see.
I'm so glad you captured the moment that we finally
absolutely,
got to meet up. And Keeley had invited me to Keeley Towers many, many times, and it never happened. We were going to go and just talk about ABBA, because we're both huge ABBA
massive
Bananarama
Bananarama fans.
Yeah,
we were just talking about that.
So I said, Keeley's my Agnetha and Frida all wrapped into one.
Gladly.
And it doesn't get better than that.
Okay then, well, so goodbye from us and Dublin City
Goodbye.
FM, and
Goodbye.
check out
Thanks
Paul's
for having
gig
me.
on Saturday night.